Hello guys, welcome back. I'm in my stream right now, but we are right after the NHL draft lottery. Today we're going to be doing the top 16 of the draft since we have a lottery confirmed. If you guys are just coming in here for the first time, subscribe, hit that like button. We have the chat all here as well, going through these picks too. And we're going to be cycling through all of this. We're going to go through the complete top 16, all these picks, and we're going to be picking every single one and seeing where every single prospect goes. So with the draft lottery over and done with, we now know the top three is Montreal 1, New Jersey 2, and Arizona 3, which changes up a lot for me. But really, when we look at the first overall pick and start it off early, there's no doubt now, with it being Montreal number 1, that Shane Wright will go first overall. Like, this is pretty much, in my opinion, an absolute necessity, and this is an absolute lock in my opinion. And I could see the Habs maybe having a better fit in Logan Cooley potentially, but at the first overall pick, there's no way that Montreal doesn't take Wright. So that's who I see them going for. But this is where it gets real interesting, because as we were going through this lottery and New Jersey got a top 3 spot, in my opinion, New Jersey doesn't need this pick whatsoever, because I think they should go for a defenseman. But this is why it makes everything so interesting, because do you go for a centerman? Do you go for Juraj Slafkovsky at number 2? And in my opinion, I think that is what they will do. I think for the Devils, I think at number 2, they'll end up going for Juraj Slafkovsky. So we're going to have them going for Slafkovsky at the second overall pick. And he's an interesting one because for me, even though he wouldn't be my pick, he brings such great physicality, such great consistency. He's already at a pretty decent, I think, pro game already, playing in Finland and being great there, but a solid goal scorer, fantastic shot, has a lot really to work with. And in my opinion, there's so much the Devils can build off from. And if they do want to go on the wing side, if they do want to have something that they don't have in their system, Slafkovsky brings that physicality and that tenacity that they don't have. And even though I would go for a defenseman if I was New Jersey, if I was outside the top 3, now that they're inside the top 2, I think they go for Slafkovsky at number 2. But going on to the third overall pick here of Arizona, the team that royally got screwed in this draft lottery, unfortunately. But there's still some amazing options, and at number 3 for me, there's really no doubt about it. I think we can all agree that the Coyotes do go for Logan Cooley. To me, when it comes to Logan Cooley, he would be the guy that I would pick second overall. For New Jersey, though, that's a little bit of a different story. But I think for the Coyotes, Cooley fits so many and checks so many of the boxes that they have. Fantastic centerman, elite skating, great presence and decision making on the ice. He's going to be a great number 1 center, and you put him alongside players like Dylan Guenther and some of the players they're building out there in the forward group. I think he's going to fit right at home and be a guy that's really the future of centermen in the NHL. Which also leaves the Coyotes in a weird spot at the 4th overall, or the Seattle Kraken at a weird spot with the 4th overall pick. In my opinion, this is going to be a weird one, but I do actually think they will go for a defenseman here. It's either between the Mets or Jiricek, but I will say at this spot, I do think they go for David Jiricek. He's a guy that's also been rising quite a bit, just came back from injury playing for international play for the Czech Republic and has been really good since then. But with Jiricek, even though I do prefer Nemec, Jiricek also is a super mature, super consistent, and really under the radar defenseman who does a lot of the right things and also does have some good offensive potential with him. Loves to go right up in the zone and get out of his own zone effectively. I feel like for Seattle, he's not going to be that star player like Beniers might be, but he's going to be such a great piece in that defense and could be a top 2 D-man if all pans out right. And then going to Philadelphia, in my opinion, this is a pretty easy pick for them to make, and for me, it's at 5th overall, it's 100% Simon Nemec. I mean, he's a guy that, even though I don't think fits as well into the Flyer system as maybe a Jiricek does, he also does fill quite a bit of the boxes there in terms of the defensive structure and some of the potential he has. In my opinion, he definitely has a chance of being the best defenseman of this draft, and it's really the puck movement, it's the quickness, it's the skating, it's the decision making. A lot of it is at a very high level with Nemec, and he knows how to score, he knows how to get in the right areas, and his passing game is fantastic. To me, with Philadelphia, he'd be such a good addition on that defense. Not exactly a defenseman, but he can definitely carry his own there. Now, the Columbus Blue Jackets got the Blackhawks pick this time around, and will be picking 6th as well as 13 or 12 earlier or later in the draft. But at number 6, to me, I feel like this pick, it could go a lot of different ways, but looking at the options, looking at the potential that Columbus has, you already went for 2 different centers there. And it's interesting because you went for Sillinger, you went for Ken Johnson in the last draft, and those are 2 fantastic players to add on to that forward group. But to me, I think they actually might go for a little bit of a not a reach per se, but a player that might not be picked by many people at number 6. I'm actually going to say that Columbus does pick Frank Nazar. Now, Frank Nazar is an interesting one. I've noticed some people have preferred him over a guy like Logan Cooley and even other forwards in this draft. And I can definitely see where they're coming from. Tenacious, excellent play driver who really doesn't take a break on any shifts whatsoever. He has some great underlying skill to him, too. To me, there's a lot to like there, even though he wouldn't be my pick. And I think there are some defensive issues there. At the same time, I do like his game. He's a good pusher of play. And I think in Columbus, with the forward group that they're already building, he's going to be such a good addition there. And I can see Nazar being a good pick for the Blue Jackets at number 6. Now going on to Ottawa, this is going to be an interesting one because a lot of times I've gone for a lot of times, and at that pick, I've said they could go for a Conor Geekie at that spot. There's a lot of options there. And I feel like if Juraj Slafkovsky isn't available, then I think it almost has to be. I think it almost has to be Conor Geekie. He's the guy that makes the most sense for what Ottawa is building with their roster. They want big size. They want guys who can still skate as well on top of that. And I think just a pure offensive level, Geekie has good potential. But the problem is there's too many shifts where I see him taking plays off. Too little physicality for a guy that is that big. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Quinton Byfield in his draft year. There is potential there, and I do like him, but I feel like he might not be the play driver. He might not be the pusher of play on his own line that some people want to see out of him. Which leads us as well on to the 8th overall pick. And unfortunately, the Red Wings, who had to lose out again in this draft lottery. To me, at this spot, I think they go for a pretty smart pick here. And I think they go for Matthew Savoie. At this spot, I think it's a pretty Detroit type of pick. He's a guy that I would pick a little bit higher. But he's a guy that has so much potential to work with, such a good passer, such a good just dominator in the offensive zone, loves to carry pucks himself, loves to maybe be a little bit selfish, but make right plays at the right times. Has a wonderful shot, good awareness on the ice. Doesn't really put it all in defensively, but in Detroit's system with Steve Yzerman, I think that can change quite a bit. He's a guy I could see being a first-line power play, offensive dynamite player, and really be a fantastic pick for the Red Wings at number 8. Which leaves us on to number 9 and the Buffalo Sabres. And at this spot, to me, it's a little bit of a contentious one, but looking at the options they do have, I think this is probably where Joakim Kemell is going to end up going. Because for me, I feel like they could really use another goal scorer. They can even use another winger in that system. And I feel like they already went for defenseman pretty hard these past couple of years. I think Kemell fits their system pretty well. Even though I wouldn't pick Kemell that high, I feel like he's a guy that will go pretty high in this draft for the finishing that he has. He is still one of the best goal scorers of this draft. And in my opinion, still has a lots of progress to make offensively. But I think if you're able to unlock that shot, if you're able to unlock that quickness, there's still a top 6 scorer there, and he's going to thrive on that power play alongside Dylan Cousins and the other centermen they have there. Which leaves us to the last pick inside the top 10, and now on to Anaheim, who I kind of go back and forth on. They're another team that has a lot of options, but for me, I actually do think they'll go for a forward here. And I'm going to say they go for a little bit of an off-the-board one and select Noah Ostlund. Now, Noah Ostlund really made a breakthrough in the World Juniors. And although I had him still pretty high, there was a lot of people that started to jump on the bandwagon. And I think we'll start to see his stock rise a lot over these next few weeks. He's got the eye love, though. Good attack, good quickness, but he does still have a step to go to get to the NHL level. But I love his skill. The size is a little bit of a problem there. He is a guy that can get dominated a little bit physically, but I do think if you take your time with him, especially at 10th overall, I think the potential that he comes a top 6 forward and produces is still pretty high. And at 10th overall, I think there's a good amount of potential there. But we're going to go on to the rest of the top 16 and go on to the rest of the picks because there's still quite a bit to go through. And this is where the draft really starts to completely go all over the place. And San Jose is the next pick. This is where it gets interesting too. I think with San Jose, they're a team that's gone pretty forward heavy these past couple of years. They went with William Eklund as their top pick in the last draft, and we saw them really go forward heavy in the top few rounds of these past couple of drafts specifically. I think they do go for a defenseman here, and personally for me with San Jose, I think that guy is Pavel Mintyukov. He's a guy that, although he might not be the best defensively, I think I'm spelling that right. But with Pavel Mintyukov, he's such an interesting guy this season to watch. He's such a dynamite offensive and risk-taking defenseman, but you can tell with the risks that he does take, he takes them at the right times. He's a good decision maker, really loves to push play as well and get out of his zone cleanly. Great skater, really flashy, but again, isn't a guy that sacrifices too much defense to get those offensive results, which I think is a huge, huge bonus. But then going on to Columbus, who has their 12th pick now in the draft. They had 6th overall, and at that spot, I thought they would take Frank Nazar. At this spot, too, I mean, I could see them going for a defenseman, but I think Columbus likes to go best player available throughout these drafts, and to me, there's still quite a bit of guys still available at this spot. And in my opinion, at number 12, I think this personally is where Brad Lambert is going to go. To me, I think Columbus is a pretty good fit there. They've obviously had a pretty good history with Finnish players, especially recently with Patrick Laine being a star there now. But I think under Columbus' system, Brad Lambert can truly thrive. He's a player that's had such an unlucky streak this season, has just not put up the results that he's needed to. But you saw last year with Aatu Radu and how the same thing happened with him, and this year he's a point per game. I can see Lambert being that good offensively next year and really lighting it up once he gets under the right team and under the right system. I think in Columbus, though, he could still become a top 6 forward. I still see him as a top 5 prospect, even a top 3 prospect in this draft. But I know some people are going to be lower on him because of the production issues he's had. But I think in Columbus, they're not going to be a team worrying about that. But now going on to the Islanders, this is going to be a weird one. This could go all over the place. But actually, I'm going to say this. I think they go for a pretty big upset here. And I'm going to say they actually go for USA defenseman Seamus Casey. Now, not a lot of people will have him in the top 13, top 15. I know some people might have him in the first round. To me, Seamus Casey fits a lot of the attributes that I think New York's going to want in the future. He's a guy that's such a fantastic and brilliant offensive defenseman, a guy that really pushes play. In the offensive zone, especially in the power play, he's a guy that can absolutely dominate a blue line. A great efficient passer, though, knows what to do at all times. And I think with Casey under the Islanders system, he'd be a really interesting player to see. And it feels like they're wanting to go in a more offensive direction. Lou Lamoriello said he wanted to bring on an offensive defenseman this offseason. Obviously, Casey isn't going to be NHL ready, but I could see him factoring onto that top 4 pretty solidly over these next few years. Then going on to Winnipeg, this is going to be another interesting pick. I can see them going either forward or defenseman here. But honestly, I do see them going for a forward, and I do see them going for Cutter Gauthier, who is a guy that was pretty high up in the NHL Central scouting rankings for North America. I'm pretty sure he's like 3rd overall, which was crazy to see. I'm not that high on him, but I do like his energy and his enthusiasm a lot. Honestly, one of the bigger, not grinders, but one of the more intense forwards of this draft, always putting his heart out there and really getting pucks to his team very well. He's not a turnover machine in the wrong way. He's a turnover machine in the right way. Loves to strip defenders of the puck, play a good forward-checking game. He's just going to be a nasty player that you don't want to play against. Could kind of see him becoming like a Blake Coleman or a Barclay Goodrow, around those type of lines where he's that player that's just such a nuisance, especially in the playoffs. And then going on to Vancouver, this is a pick that I've kind of gone back and forth on. I can see them going for a defense, and I can see them going for a forward. But I'm actually going to go for a little bit of an upset here. I'm going to say that the Canucks select Slovakian forward Philip Machar. Now, Machar isn't a common pick, 15th overall by any means, but I think in Vancouver, he fits really well into their system. Loves to drive the net, really loves to win faceoffs in exceedingly great rates, but also is a guy that loves to put pucks on net, put pucks into the slot too, and loves to create high danger chances. That's really his bread and butter. And even though there is still a lot to grow, he's not that small of a player. He's an intense guy, still has a good defensive game, and I think under Vancouver's system could play really well there. Really, really well there. And then going on to the last pick here with Buffalo getting number 16. They already ended up picking a pretty solid pick as well at number 9. But to me, I think it's going to be an interesting a selection for them because I can see them going a bunch of different ways. But I'm actually going to go with them picking Rutger McGroarty, who I think could solidify their center group as one of the elites going into the future. He can play wing if you need him to, but he's a bona fide center that I think could bring so much to Buffalo. He's a player that I think, as a third line, second line center, has so much potential. Really intense, really effective and really consistent guy too. Doesn't take many games off. He's a guy that loves to be just a hardworking player, hard-nosed player, and his positioning is fantastic. One of the better positioning players in this entire draft, with just a great center ability, fantastic overall senses. His skating is really the biggest problem. He's not a fast guy, and his acceleration does need some serious work, but to me, I kind of see some Jason Robertson in him, where the skating was the biggest issue, but it's fixable in my opinion. And with the upside that McGroarty has, in my opinion, 16th overall is a pretty great pick for them. But a lot of options throughout this entire 16, and we'll see what happens by the end of it. But that is going to be it for my top 16. If you did enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe if you are new, join the Gragging if you haven't already. Comment down below what you guys think about my top 16, what you agree and disagree with, and what you guys think, what your top 16s would be. What do you guys see the top 3 looking like and everything? Let me know your thoughts. I'll see you in the next one, though. Goodbye.